Your BYD isn't going to die in some dramatic highway collision. It's going to die quietly, in your own garage, a little bit every single night while you sleep, and you won't notice until the day you try to sell it and realize your range has vanished like smoke. I've seen owners who've had their cars for 3 years, people who genuinely believe they've mastered EV ownership, making the exact same silent mistake every evening when they plug in, until the battery, the component that costs as much as a decent used hatchback, finally shows them the bill. These aren't the mistakes that light up your dashboard. No warning chime, no error message flashing red, just compounding damage that eats away at your car's value and performance while you're completely unaware. We're covering 15 of these today. And here's the part you need to understand right now. The worst ones, the ones costing you the most money and the most range. They're buried at the end, and they're also the easiest ones to fix. Let's start with mistake number 15, never letting your battery reach 100%. This one confuses even the careful owners because it sounds completely backwards from every piece of EV advice you've ever heard. You've been told to keep your electric car around 80% and avoid charging it to full, right? For most electric vehicles, that's absolutely correct advice. But your BYD runs on lithium iron phosphate cells, what they call LFP, the Blade battery technology. And LFP chemistry doesn't follow the same rulebook as the older lithium-ion packs. Here's the twist that almost nobody explains when they hand you the keys. Your BYD actually needs to hit a full 100% charge on a regular basis, not every single day, but roughly once a week. The reason comes down to how the car's computer reads the battery state. On LFP chemistry, the battery management system struggles to accurately track how much charge remains when it never sees a complete charge cycle. Keep your car perpetually cycling between 30 and 80%, and the range estimate slowly drifts out of alignment with reality. Owners start seeing their displayed range jump around unpredictably or suddenly plummet, and they panic, convinced the battery is degrading rapidly. Most of the time, it isn't degrading at all. The battery itself is perfectly healthy. The car has simply lost its reference point and can't calculate accurately anymore. Charging all the way to 100% gives the system a known point to recalibrate against and get its calculations back in sync with reality. So here's the routine. Once a week, charge it to full, ideally right before a longer drive where you'll actually use that charge instead of letting the car sit at 100% doing nothing. Do that consistently and your range display stays accurate and trustworthy. Skip it forever, and you'll spend months second-guessing a number that was never actually broken, just confused. Mistake number 14, leaving your charge limit permanently set at 100%. This is the critical one, and it's the exact flip side of what we just talked about, so pay very close attention because these two rules work as a pair. Your BYD almost certainly rolled off the factory floor with its maximum charge limit preset to 100%, and the overwhelming majority of owners never touch that setting. That factory default is one of the single fastest ways to age your battery pack that exists. Now, BYD uses lithium iron phosphate cells, and those cells genuinely are more tolerant of sitting at high charge states than the older lithium-ion chemistry you find in many other electric vehicles. That tolerance is real, it's one of LFP's genuine advantages, but tolerant does not mean immune to damage. Sitting at a complete 100% charge night after night, doing absolutely nothing, puts sustained stress on those cells that accumulates over months and slowly erodes total capacity. The range that was 400 kilometers when you bought it quietly becomes 370, then 350, and there's never a fault code or warning light to explain why it's happening. So here's how these two rules fit together as a system, because this is where people get confused and mess it up. For your daily charging routine, set your limit to 80%. Once a week, take it all the way to 100% right before you're about to drive and actually use that charge. What you absolutely never want is the car sitting at full 100% for hours or days on end with no plan to move it. Daily 80, weekly 100 that gets used immediately. That single habit is the difference between a battery that's holding strong usable capacity at 100,000 kilometers and one that's lost a serious chunk of its advertised range. It costs you nothing to implement, and it starts protecting your investment tonight. Mistake number 13, relying on DC fast charging as your daily routine. The charge limits are sorted, but how you charge matters just as much as how much you charge. DC fast charging is genuinely one of the best features of owning a BYD. It's fast, it's convenient, the network keeps expanding, and it makes long trips completely feasible. It's also one of the absolute quickest ways to age your battery pack if you lean on it as your default every single day. Fast charging works by forcing an enormous amount of current into the battery in a very compressed time frame, and that process generates significant heat. Heat during charging is one of the primary drivers of long-term battery degradation, full stop. BYD's thermal management system handles it well, better than most competitors, but it cannot completely erase the physical effect. Battery cells simply age faster under repeated fast charge cycles than they do with slow overnight AC charging at home. I know of an Atto 3 owner who fast charged 5 times a week for over a year because he had no home charging setup and didn't want to pay for installation. By 55,000 kilometers, his battery had aged like a 90,000 kilometer car that had been gently charged at home the entire time. He effectively doubled his battery's wear rate in under 2 years, and none of that damage is recoverable. A home AC charging setup would have cost him under $1,000 installed. Use fast charging for road trips, emergencies, and the occasional top-up when you're genuinely caught short. Use home AC charging for absolutely everything else. Your battery 4 years from now will show the difference in the one number you actually care about, remaining range. Mistake number 12, treating the tire pressure warning light as your tire check reminder. Here's one that almost every new owner gets wrong, and it's not directly about the battery at all, but it affects range and component wear in ways that quietly cost you money. Your tire pressure monitoring system light, the TPMS warning, is not a maintenance reminder tool. It's a last resort alarm that only activates when something's already gone significantly wrong. That word significantly is doing heavy lifting here. By the time that light appears on your dashboard, the tire has already been running underinflated and overheating for quite a while. Tires naturally lose about 1 psi per month just sitting there, and they lose more in cold weather. Being 4 or 5 psi low does quiet damage to both the tire structure and your suspension components long before any warning ever appears. On a heavy EV, which every BYD is because of the battery pack weight, that underinflation wears tires faster and directly eats into your driving range at the same time. The correct pressure specification is on a sticker inside your driver's door jamb, not printed on the tire sidewall. On cars like the Atto 3 and Seal, the front and rear pressures are often different values, so check both. Grab a proper digital gauge and spend 3 minutes checking once a week. Better range, longer tire life, sharper handling response, and suspension components that don't wear out prematurely. Every single one of those saves you money. Mistake number 11, driving for weeks without properly setting up the smartphone app. Most new BYD owners drive the car for a week, sometimes an entire month, before they actually open the app and configure it properly. That's weeks of missed protection and efficiency. The app gives you remote control over climate settings, charging schedules, and door locks. But the feature that matters most for battery health is preconditioning. Set a departure time, and the car warms or cools the interior before you walk out and brings the battery up to its ideal operating temperature before your first kilometer. Here's the part people consistently miss. Precondition while the car is still plugged into the charger, and all that heating and cooling runs on grid power, not your battery. Skip it, and it all runs on your battery instead, draining range before you've even left the driveway and putting the battery to work while it's still cold, which is significantly harder on it. On a freezing winter morning, that difference is substantial. Sometimes 15 or 20 kilometers of range just vanished into warming up. 15 minutes to download the app, pair it to the car, and set a single departure time. It changes how the car works for you permanently and protects the battery every cold morning for the entire time you own it. Mistake number 10, never adjusting your regenerative braking setting. Regenerative braking is one of the most useful features in your BYD, and simultaneously one of the least understood by new owners. Most people leave it on whatever middle default setting it came with and never touch it again. That leaves real range and real money sitting on the table unused. When you lift off the accelerator pedal, the electric motor spins in reverse and converts your momentum back into battery charge. Set it to the stronger level, and in city traffic, you can bring the car almost to a complete stop just by lifting your foot, barely touching the brake pedal at all. In the Atto 3, Seal, and Dolphin, you can adjust this through the Drive Mode settings menu. Here's the money part that nobody tells you. Because you're using the physical friction brakes so much less, your brake pads and rotors last dramatically longer than on any conventional car. I've known BYD owners who sailed past 40,000 kilometers on their original factory brake pads purely because they mastered one-pedal driving technique in their first month of ownership. It feels completely natural within a week, and it can save you an entire brake service over the life of the car, on top of all the range you claw back. Mistake number 9, assuming an electric vehicle is basically maintenance-free. This is the belief that quietly destroys more BYDs than almost anything else on this list, so let's kill it right now. A lot of new owners assume that with no combustion engine, there's basically nothing to service. No oil changes means nothing to do, right? That assumption causes real, expensive problems. Your BYD still needs its brake fluid replaced, usually every 2 years, because brake fluid absorbs moisture over time, regardless of what powers the car. It needs cabin filter changes, tire rotations, and regular suspension inspections. And critically, it has a coolant loop that manages the operating temperature of both the battery pack and the electric motor, and that coolant needs periodic inspection and eventual replacement. None of this is optional maintenance. An Atto 3 came into a service center with a battery cooling fault at 68,000 kilometers. The coolant had never once been inspected or topped up. A partially blocked cooling circuit had been running warm for months, slowly cooking the very component it was designed to protect. The repair bill was over $1,800. The coolant service that would have prevented it entirely costs around $150. Book your scheduled service appointments on time. Electric does not mean maintenance-free, it just means different maintenance. If you're getting value out of this, do me a favor right now. Hit the like button, drop a comment telling me which of these mistakes you've been guilty of. I guarantee it's at least one. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and tap that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and I read every single comment that comes in. Mistake number 8. Ignoring the 12-volt battery until it strands you somewhere. Here's one that catches BYD owners completely off guard, because most don't even know it exists. Alongside that giant traction battery pack, every BYD also runs a small conventional 12-volt battery, the exact same kind a gas car uses. It powers the door locks, the computers, and the entire wake-up sequence. When it starts to weaken, the symptoms look completely bizarre and unrelated. The car might fail to wake up from sleep mode, lock and unlock inconsistently, or throw an entire cluster of seemingly unrelated warning lights all at once. A Dolphin owner once got 4 different warning lights simultaneously on the dash and assumed something catastrophic had failed in multiple systems. The actual cause was a single 12-volt battery sitting below its voltage threshold. One replacement fixed all 4 warnings instantly. If your car starts behaving strangely on wake-up or throws a scattered mess of odd warnings, don't just drive through it for 3 days hoping it clears itself. Get it looked at the same day. A weak 12-volt battery is cheap and easy to replace. Being stranded by one in a parking lot is not. Mistake number 7. Driving through battery and system warnings. This follows straight on from the last one because your BYD communicates problems in 2 places and new owners routinely miss both. Your car flags issues through the dashboard instrument cluster and through push notifications in the smartphone app. Owners routinely miss the app alerts because notifications were never enabled in settings and ignore the dashboard warnings because the car still drives fine, so it can't be that serious. But a high-voltage system warning or a battery management alert is never something you drive through and deal with later. These systems monitor individual cell temperatures and electrical insulation resistance in real time, and the window between an early warning and a serious expensive repair can be extremely short. Enable every single push notification category in the app right now. Then the moment a warning appears on the screen or your phone, look it up that same day. On the systems protecting your single most expensive component, waiting is the absolute worst thing you can do. Mistake number 6, running it down to near empty and then letting it sit. We spent a lot of time talking about the top end of the battery range. The bottom is where people get careless because they assume LFP chemistry just doesn't care about being low. It cares. Regularly running your BYD down towards single-digit percentage and especially letting it sit there for days is a quiet way to damage the pack. When the battery gets very low, the cells are under a different kind of stress, and if the car sits near empty long enough, the main traction pack keeps slowly self-draining just to power its own background systems and that 12-volt battery we just talked about. Push that situation far enough for long enough, and you risk over-discharging the pack, which is the one battery state that can do real, sometimes completely unrecoverable damage. Here's the version that catches people out. They park the car at 5% charge before flying off on a 2-week holiday, figuring they'll just charge it when they get back. Exactly wrong. If the car's going to sit unused for an extended period, leave it around 50%, not scraping the bottom of the range. Day to day, treat 10 to 20% as your realistic floor, the same way you'd never make a habit of running your phone completely flat every single night. The battery pays you back over time in the one number that actually matters, range that holds steady. Mistake number 5, parking with a security system you forgot to switch on. Here's a mistake that cost you absolutely nothing until the exact moment it cost you hundreds of dollars, and it's sitting in your car right now, switched off. Your BYD's external cameras aren't just for reversing and parking assistance. On current models, including the Atto 3, Seal, and Seal 6, they can record continuously while the car is parked and completely switched off. A built-in Sentry system watching every side of your car. And the overwhelming majority of owners drive for months, sometimes the entire time they own the car, without ever turning it on. So when someone keys the door panel, backs into the bumper, or dings it in a parking lot and drives off, there's no footage and the repair bill comes straight out of your pocket. A Seal owner got door dinged in a shopping center car park and assumed there was no way to prove who did it. As it happened, the previous owner had left parking surveillance enabled in settings. The whole incident was captured on camera, and the person responsible was still in the parking lot when the owner walked back out. The only reason that ended well is because a feature was switched on. Go into Vehicle Settings, find the Camera or Security menu, enable parking surveillance, and make sure there's a USB drive or SD card installed in whatever format the manual specifies before you need it. It works silently every single time you walk away. Mistake number 4. Flooring the accelerator the second you get in on a cold morning. This one's almost too satisfying to resist, which is exactly why people do it. Your BYD makes full torque instantly from the first second. No warm-up period, no revs building, no delay. So on a cold morning, the temptation is to jump in and bury the accelerator pedal right away because it's fun and the car lets you. But a cold battery is a stressed battery. When the pack is cold, its internal resistance is higher and it physically can't deliver full power safely yet. Slamming a huge current demand through cold cells is genuinely hard on them and on the motor and driveline before anything's up to operating temperature. Your car actually protects itself here. It limits available power when the battery is cold, which is why your BYD sometimes feels noticeably slower first thing in the morning. That's not a fault or a problem. That's the car defending its own battery from you. The fix ties directly back to a mistake we already covered. Precondition through the app while the car's still plugged in so the battery's warm before you even open the door. And if you didn't precondition, just drive gently for the first few minutes and let everything warm up naturally before you ask for everything it's got. The launches will still be there waiting. Your battery will still be healthy when you use them. Mistake number 3. Blasting a pressure washer where you shouldn't. Everyone washes their car. Almost nobody thinks about the fact that an EV has high voltage components and sealed battery areas that a gas car simply doesn't have. Your BYD is extremely well sealed and designed to handle rain, puddles, and normal weather, so you don't need to be scared of washing it. But there's a difference between washing it normally and firing a high-pressure jet stream straight at the charge port, the underbody panel seams, or the areas around where the battery pack meets the body. A strong enough jet aimed at the wrong seal over and over can force water past gaskets that were only ever designed to shrug off rain, not a pressure washer held 6 inches away at full blast. Water where high-voltage electronics live is the one place you never want it, and the repair bills reflect that. There's a second part people miss entirely. Your BYD has cooling air intakes and drainage channels that have to stay clear to keep the battery and motor at the correct operating temperature. Pack them full of leaves, mud, or road debris, and you're quietly choking the cooling system that protects your most expensive component. So keep the pressure washer jet at a sensible distance. Don't blast directly into charge ports, panel seams, or cooling vents, and every so often check that the intakes and drains underneath aren't clogged with debris. A minute of care protects thousands of dollars of electronics. Mistake number 2, dismissing the software update notification for months. Here's a mistake with no equivalent on an old combustion car and people wave it off as trivial. It isn't. Think about what a software update on a BYD actually is. It's not just a new menu layout or slightly different graphics. These updates regularly change how the car manages the battery itself, how it charges, how it balances individual cells, how it protects the pack from heat stress. Which means the manufacturer has quietly figured out how to make your battery last longer or charge smarter, and they're handing it to you for free over the air. Dismiss that update prompt for 6 months because you can't be bothered and you're running the most important system in your car on outdated logic while the fix just sits there waiting. And there's a second catch people don't think about. Sometimes an update is a genuine safety fix or recall repair pushed over the air, the kind of thing that used to mean a mandatory trip to the dealer and a day without your car. Keep swiping it away because the car has to sit still for 20 minutes and you might be ignoring a fix that actually matters for safety or longevity. When an update is available, plug in overnight, park somewhere safe with a decent connection, and let it install while you sleep. You paid for a car that gets better over time. Stop preventing it from doing that. Mistake number 1, keeping no service records whatsoever. And the number one mistake ties everything on this entire list together because it's the one that protects you when something does eventually go wrong. It takes 10 minutes to set up, and it can be worth the entire price of the battery pack. Keep a record of absolutely everything done to your car. It doesn't need to be fancy or complicated. A note on your phone, a simple spreadsheet, a notebook in the glove box. It doesn't matter. Date, mileage reading, what was done, where it was done, and what it cost. That's all it needs to be. Here's why it matters so much on a BYD specifically. The battery is covered by a long warranty, often 8 years or longer, depending on your market. And it's the most expensive single component in the car by an enormous margin. If you ever have to make a battery warranty claim, documented service history is the difference between that claim being approved quickly and being denied outright on the grounds of neglect or improper maintenance. An owner I know of had a battery warranty issue reviewed by BYD with complete service records from day one, every oil change equivalent, every inspection, every software update, approved within a week. Another owner at the exact same dealership, same fault, no records at all, was tied up in disputes for months. A simple note on your phone costs you absolutely nothing. What it can protect is worth as much as the single most expensive part of your entire car. At the start of this video I told you your BYD wasn't going to die in a crash. It was going to die a little every night in your own driveway, and you wouldn't feel it happening until the day you tried to sell it and saw what the range had become. Now you know exactly how that happens. The charge limit sitting at 100% every single night, the daily fast charging out of pure habit, the battery you keep running near empty, the coolant system nobody ever inspected, the software update you kept swiping away. None of it announces itself with drama, all of it compounds silently over time. But here's the good news buried in all of this. The BYDs that hold strong range at year 5, the ones with a battery that still performs like it did on day 1, and a warranty claim that gets approved without a fight, they're not special cars, and they're not the lucky ones. They just had owners who set the charge limit correctly, opened the app and used it, and treated the most expensive part of the car with the respect the engineers designed into it. Your battery wants to last. Help it. That's 15 mistakes, and I'd bet at least one of them made you stop and think, yeah, I need to sort that out. If it did, good. That's exactly what this channel exists for. Drop a comment below and tell me which one hit closest to home. No judgment here. Half of these are things nobody ever tells you when you drive the car off the lot for the first time. And if there's a mistake you think I missed, or something you've seen that should have been on this list, I genuinely want to hear it. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is the place for people who actually care about what they drive, whether it's your first EV or your 5th car overall. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of what's next, if this got you thinking about long-term battery health and how to protect your investment properly, you're going to want to watch my complete breakdown of exactly how to charge a BYD for maximum possible battery lifespan. The full routine, start to finish, with nothing left out. It's up next. Drive safe. I'll see you there.